Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, YouTubers and subscribers and friends and alike. It's Grant coming at you from the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. I was door dashing and Uber Eats and all that, and then Bauer, that I'm in right now, I call him Bauer, decided to take a dump. There's I think it's a faulty computer, because at first it was saying the AC compressor is bad on the code, so I shut that off and no longer use the air. And now all of a sudden it's trying to say it was low oil pressure, except for I checked the oil and everything, and that all is fine. But then when you turn the air on, then it's no low oil pressure anymore, then it's back to the bad AC. So I think it's not the sensors so much as the computer system is faulty. 20 years old, you know, it's like any other computer brain. It's faulty, but my former boss from PTI, Professional Transportation and Company, the first time around that I worked there for them, the first guy that I worked for, I got to talking to him about it on Messenger today and what to do, because it kept dying every 3 or 4 miles, and it'd go about 10 miles and die again, and it was a pain in the butt trying to get this home across the state. And I was about to give up on it, and I talked to him about it, and he said these vans, because PTI, Professional Transportation and Company, uses these vans too. That's part of the reason why I bought them, is because I would know I had a little bit, you know, of research into running them, even though this is an older one than what they use at the moment. But I figured at least I'd have some giggle on it. But anyway, if you with proper maintenance, you can get these vans up to 500,000 miles. That's why I bought them. But this one started acting up, and but I got on the messenger with him, and he said to keep it at 2.5 or so RPMs, 2,500, and go between 40 and 45 mile an hour, or whatever that ends up being, in second gear, and you bypass the sensors. You're basically telling the computer that you're the mechanic, taking it to the shop, and to stop running its diagnostics. It like puts a halt on it, because what was happening was the computer was diagnosing the problem. It would flip a sensor and it would say the sensor's bad, or maybe there is a couple sensors that are bad or something, but I tend to think it's the computer, because it went from one fault to the other. So I think that it's a bad computer core, which I don't know how much that's going to cost to replace it. This one isn't in as good a condition as the other one that I have at home that I call Eddie. So I might just end up parting this one out, taking everything I can from it, stripping it, and putting it in the other car when I have the money and find a mechanic to help me do it. Because the other one possibly has a blown head gasket, but I'm thinking if I take the guts of this one, put it in that one, Frankenstein them together, because they're close twins. They're slightly different body types. When you go for the four-wheel drive and transportation stuff like that, I can't really do that, because that's a switch on the fly four-wheel drive in that one, and this one is all-wheel drive all the time. So that part is slightly different, but everything else, you know, your generic shocks, obviously the tires are brand new on this one that I put on that one. That all fits, because they're all the same model, make, year, model, and type. Even the engines are the same. It's just the other one has the blown head, so we're probably going to strip everything we can out of this one and put it in the other one when I can find a mechanic and I got the money to do it. Other than that, at the moment, my mom can use this one in Shatter, Nebraska come this next winter if she's still there. Just put it in second gear, drive around town 45 mile an hour or less. I mean, the in-town speed will be fine. And it's got the brand new tires on it, all-wheel drive all the time. She won't have to screw around with the switch on the fly four-wheel drive and off on the other vehicle. She can just leave it on, you know, use it on nice days, and then use this one on the bad days if she has to go out in bad weather. That'd be the general idea. And then this one is in worse body condition anyway, so it'd be the better vehicle to take out in bad weather in case something happened. But I'm basically going through Nebraska trying to inch it home in mechanical limp mode. And my former boss said it's fine, you can drive it all the way like that. 2,500 RPM, 45 mile an hour, and second gear is forced limp mode for Ford Expeditions, anywhere between, I think it said 1997 and 2007 or so, that you can get away with doing this and get by the sensors. And he knows that from what they were using them. He was using Ford Expeditions that were 2015, but it's the same concept. Apparently it works the same, because it decided to quit acting up like it was doing, and we're just slow roll cruising. He said put it on cruise, and I've just been cruising 45 mile an hour since then. I don't even want to take it off 45 mile an hour, whether the speed limit drops or not. Oh well, I guess it's just speed. I don't want to take the risk of it dying and fighting that thing, starting it up again. I've done it so many times already. But it's working fine now in 45, so I just cruise home as slow as possible, I guess. I don't know. 60 mile an hour right now is the speed limit, and I'm only doing 45. And of course, the dude behind me is probably just as mad as every dude behind me was earlier. But it is what it is. There's Alliance is 151 miles, and then Chatter, Nebraska is like 60 or 70 miles north of that. I'm gonna get to Alliance tonight and do some door dashing to get some more money for gas and food, and then I'm gonna take power the rest of the way home tonight or tomorrow morning, depending. But I just wanted to get on here real quick and give a video about the mechanical limp mode for Ford Expedition. If you have one of these, odds are pretty good because of the amount of different sensors that they have. You're gonna end up having this issue at one point or another. For any number one thing. I mean, like Randy was saying, any one thing goes off and the engine, the computer just decides, oh, we're done, we're going to limp mode. And it fights you and does its diagnostics over and over again. And that's what was happening. It was taking about 10 minutes to do its diagnostics, and then once it found out fault somewhere along the line, didn't matter what it was, even a bad air compressor for the AC this night wasn't even on or something, you know, it would throw that fault, and then it'd be like, nope, now we want to go to the shop. So to get around that, you put her in second gear, 2,500 or so RPM, and around 40 or 45 mile an hour, and then put the cruise on, and it just stays in that one gear and forces it out of diagnostics. And I guess that's telling a way of telling the computer that the Ford mechanic is taking it to the dealer. It's a hidden secret that Ford didn't want people to know, apparently, so that obviously the normal way would be the computer would screw the car up like it was doing, and then you'd end up towing it or whatever to the shop, and then Ford would fix it. And it's their slime ball way, in my opinion, of getting money from you, because they'll probably charge $200 for their time swapping out $11 sensor, and you know, probably $80 for compression, or I mean not compression, for the test, just to hook it up to the code reader to see, when you can do a code reader at AutoZone or O'Reilly's for free and see exactly what the codes are. Ford is proprietary on some of its codes, but the more generic ones, at least you can see what's going on, kind of what you're looking at, whether it's exhaust system or, you know, air breather or what. But it was trying to throw me an oil pressure code, which is not the case, because I mean, if it was actual oil pressure, it would just be no oil pressure all the time. You know, it'd just be one and done. You know, you'd have an oil leak or something if it was mechanical, but it's a faulty sensor down there that measures the oil flow right by the filter. And I know, I'm pretty sure, I'm not exactly positive, but I know the oil is brand new, it's just been changed out. I'm pretty sure the oil filter would have been changed out with that. When it was changed out, it might be winter oil, that stuff, the lighter weight stuff or whatever, but heavier weight. I'm gonna get over for this truck. So I know it's not the oil itself, it's just the sensor, because of the fact it's throwing the bad AC compressor too. So unless everything's deciding they're going to take a dump at me at the same time, more than likely it's the computer throwing phantom faults. But if you own an Expedition, you'll probably have these problems too once they get this old. At 20 years old, you pretty much have to replace sensors and computer and a bunch of other stuff. You have to put a lot of money into them to maintain them at the 200,000 mark, and this one's right at the 200,000, well, 199,205 miles on it at the moment. So we're getting to the 2,000 mile mark where things start to mess up. Reading up on it, it did have the manual in there to read up on it. When you're supposed to do a bunch of maintenance, and 200,000 mile mark is when you pretty much replace the whole car. That's what it looked like on me. All the sensors and transmission flush and a whole bunch of stuff you're supposed to do. But anyway, like and subscribe, leave comments, and I'll catch you on a flip. Peace.